Hey there, it's Will Vaughan from Your Career Mastery, and in today's video we're going to be talking about dealing with difficult people in the workplace. So it's inevitable, right, that during our career we're going to work with a whole different range of people, different personality types, people of different backgrounds and upbringings than us, people who have different values, different perspectives, different opinions, and sometimes that can cause conflict. But there's a different level of person that we're talking about in this video, and that is people who are just generally difficult to work with for a whole host of variety of reasons, whether it is clashing values, a different way of communicating, a different personality type. But in this video, we're going to talk about some of my ways about how I approach dealing with difficult people. So I've definitely dealt with people that I found difficult, and in many cases it can be quite subjective. The people that you find difficult to work with might be different to the people that other people that your colleagues find difficult to work with. So it's all about how we manage it for ourselves, and that's what we're going to be talking about. So the first principle here when it comes to dealing with people in general, not just difficult people, is that we can't control people and that we cannot change people. We can only control ourselves, and we can only manage ourselves and our reactions to people and to certain situations as well. If you're in a work setting, or if you're a line manager or in some sort of leadership position, and you're going into a situation with a colleague thinking that you're going to give them advice or you're going to give them feedback and that's going to change their whole approach or their whole mindset or their whole personality or their entire communication style, you are pushing it uphill, because it's really not going to happen. We can't really change people. We can influence people, we can provide feedback, we can help people become more flexible, but at their core we cannot change people, and it is foolish to think that the best outcome you're going to drive in a situation when you're dealing with people is to try and change them. So we cannot change people, we cannot control people, but we can control ourselves. We can control our reactions and our responses to people and to certain situations, and that is where the real power lies for you in how you work with people and how you communicate on a regular basis. And this is a pretty good principle just to adopt, not even just in your professional life, but also in your personal life as well. Try and control the things that you can control. Don't worry about the things that you cannot control, because you really can't control them and going to be causing yourself unnecessary stress, unnecessary frustration, and it's going to be essentially a waste of your time and energy to try and do that. Focus on the things you can control and execute on those things brilliantly, and then you'll find that you'll put yourself in a much better position to drive a really good outcome if you do that. So tip or principle number one, we can't control people, we can't change people, we can only control ourselves and our reactions. And that comes to tip number two, when we're dealing with difficult people, you want to be a pro. You always want to be professional. And the reason is, if there is a situation that comes out that needs to be escalated to the HR department based on a tension or a tense situation or a conflicting situation with people that you're working with, you want to make sure your bases are covered. You are always a pro. You don't want to cave to the tension of that difficult situation and say something inappropriate, swear at that person, say something mean to that person. Even if that person is being mean or being rude or swearing to you, you don't want to be the person to break that level of professionalism, because you want to have leverage. And if that situation gets escalated to the senior leaders or to the HR department, you want to have all your bases covered. That way you get the benefit of the doubt if they need to make a decision about who's going to get fired because of this situation, or who's going to get made redundant, or who's going to get moved, because you don't want to be in a position where even if that person was completely in the wrong, but then you reacted in a way that incriminated yourself as well, you do not want to put yourself in that position. You always want to cover your bases, and the best way to do that, and the easiest way, is to always be professional. And don't worry, I know that this is hard. We've all been in situations where we want to tell that person just to stuff it. And not even in those words. You want to say a lot more worse words than that, and you go home after work and you think about, man, in a different time, in a different situation, I would love to tell that person, just give them a real good piece of your mind. And maybe that day will come that you're leaving that role, you can go up to that person and tell them to shove it. But if you want to keep your job, if you want to keep moving forward at this company that you're working at, be a pro. Be a professional, because that is great for your reputation as well going forward. All right, my next tip here, tip number three, is to keep a written record. Now this came from a tip from a friend of mine who works in HR, and they said that, if you're going through a situation where there is a bit of conflict with a person who's being difficult, but not just being difficult, they're being quite toxic, maybe even bullying in the workplace, you want to keep a written record. And because anything can happen during a Teams call or in passing in conversation, but if you can get stuff in writing, that means if there's Teams chats, if there's emails, all these things can be deleted, they can be disappeared. But if you keep a written record, that is, you take a screenshot, you print it, you keep it, that's yours. They can't delete that. And you might want to have these files if a situation is really escalating. You want to keep these files on hand, again, to back yourself, to be a pro and to show, hey, look, here's all the things that were sent to me, here's all the vile communications, and here's how I think you should deal with this person. Because again, in all these situations, when it comes to building your professional reputation, you want to back yourself. You want to build benefit of the doubt. You want to give people confidence and people to trust you, that you've done the right thing and you are the kind of person who does the right thing and treats people well and acts like a professional and doesn't get so caught up in the emotion of certain work situations. Even though these situations can be super emotionally charged, you want to keep your cool, you want to keep a cool head, you want to be a pro. And let's be honest, at the end of the day, it's just a job anyway. And my next tip here is that you might work with difficult people, people who are frustrating to work with, people who are difficult, but there's a difference between people who are difficult, people who are toxic, and people who are bullying. And poor standard of behavior should never be accepted in the workplace. So if you're dealing with someone who is really pushing it beyond being difficult, because they might be difficult to work with, but still collaborative, you're still working with them, you have a working relationship, it's not amazing, you wouldn't hang out with them on the weekend, but it's trucking along all right. But then there's people who take that level of difficulty and make it toxic, they make it bullying behavior. That's never acceptable. So you want to talk to your line manager about that. You want to talk to the right people. Maybe there is a HR department or a certain person that you can talk to. Again, keep that written record, be a professional, but just remember that that standard of behavior that's real bad, it's not acceptable. And it's 2024 and beyond, that behavior in the corporate world has no place. So I really believe you should stand up for yourself, speak to people that you trust, and pursue the right avenues to deal with that situation. Alrighty, so lastly, here's one of my favorite things. This is things to say when you're dealing with difficult people. So sometimes when you're working with people at work who are difficult, they'll make little cutting remarks, they'll make little cutting jokes that sort of meant to chip away at you and actually elicit a reaction. But the best thing you can do is suck the wind out of their remarks, and there's a few ways that you can do it. One of my favorite ways to do it is when someone makes one of these little pithy remarks that's like a little bit witty, but like mean and rude and like kind of like a bit sarcastic. You say, oh, sorry, what did you mean by that? And then they're like, oh, whoops, oh, what did I mean? Oh, sorry. So you can say, what did you mean by that? You can also say, sorry, when you said this, does that mean this? And you really just put the spotlight on them. But asking these kinds of questions can really suck the wind out of what they were bringing to the table when they were trying to get a reaction from you. Another one you can say is, sorry, can you say that again? And then they're forced to say it. And if you're in a group setting, now everyone is listening to them saying this and everyone's going to be very, very aware of it. So you want to put it back on them, but not by making a rude remark back and meeting them at their level. You want to say, oh, sorry, what did you mean by that? Or can you say that again? Oh, when you said that, did you mean this? And really just embarrass them. And if you can embarrass them sufficiently in front of a group of people in a professional way, then I can guarantee you put yourself in a good spot to have them just shrink away and kind of fear you as someone that should be respected in the business. So I'm Will Vaughan from Your Career Mastery. Hope you found this video helpful. If you did, hit that subscribe button. Any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers.